On February 25, 1957, a young man stopped his car on Susquehanna Road in Philadelphia. He was checking rabbit traps. But instead of a rabbit, he found a cardboard box. Inside it, the body of a child. Naked. Beaten. Starved. Wrapped in a plaid blanket. And no one knew who he was. For 65 years, he had no name. No family. No history. He was buried in a pauper's grave with a headstone that read, America's Unknown Child. I'm the verdict. And this is the story of the most heartbreaking cold case in American history. At the time of his death, this boy weighed less than 30 pounds. He was 4 years old. His body was covered in scars, some from beatings, some from surgeries that no one ever explained. His hair had been cut recently, possibly after death. His fingernails had been trimmed. Someone had tried to clean him up, to make him presentable. And then they put him in a box and left him in the woods. Whoever killed Joseph Augustus Zarelli, that was his real name, learned decades later, tried to erase him. To make sure no one ever knew who he was or where he came from. For 65 years, they almost succeeded. In 2022, forensic genealogy finally gave him his name back. But it didn't give him justice. Because the question that haunts this case, the question that has haunted Philadelphia for nearly 70 years, is still unanswered. Who killed the boy in the box? In the 1950s, the Fox Chase neighborhood of Philadelphia was not the suburban sprawl it is today. It was woods. Farmland. A few scattered houses. It was the kind of place where a boy could set rabbit traps without bothering anyone. On February 25, 1957, a young man was checking his traps in the underbrush off Susquehanna Road. He saw a cardboard box, a bassinet box from JCPenney, half hidden in the weeds. He opened it. He saw the body of a child. Naked. Pale. Still. The young man panicked. He didn't call the police. He was afraid they'd confiscate his traps, an odd concern, but a real one. He walked away. He told no one. For days the boy lay in that box. Alone. Forgotten. The February cold preserving what little was left of him. A college student, Frederick Benoni's, was driving along Susquehanna Road a few days later. He saw a rabbit run into the brush. He knew there were traps there. He stopped his car to investigate. And he found the box. Benoni's didn't touch anything. He ran to the nearest house and called the police. The first officers arrived within minutes. What they found would be etched into their memories forever. The boy was 4 years old. He had been severely beaten. Blunt force trauma to the head was the official cause of death. But the beating was only part of the story. His body showed signs of long-term malnutrition. He was emaciated, his ribs visible through his skin. There were old scars everywhere, on his ankles, his groin, his chin. Surgical scars, as if someone had operated on him and never bothered to explain why. And yet, his hair had been recently cut. His fingernails were trimmed. Someone had cleaned him before placing him in that box. As if they were trying to prepare him. As if they felt a shred of guilt, but not enough to stop. The blanket he was wrapped in was plaid, green and brown, made of cotton. The box was a bassinet box from JCPenney. Investigators traced it to a specific store in Chester, Pennsylvania. 270 police recruits combed the area. They found a man's blue corduroy cap. A child's scarf. A handkerchief with the letter G embroidered on it. None of it led anywhere. The boy was taken to the morgue. His fingerprints were recorded. His photograph was distributed to every newspaper in the region. And no one came forward. The Philadelphia Inquirer printed 400,000 flyers. They were posted everywhere, in police stations, grocery stores, bus stops. They were sent out with every gas bill in the city. The boy's face was seen by millions of people. No one recognized him. The police even released a photograph of the boy dressed in a suit and tie, a post-mortem photo staged to make him look alive. It was the 1950s. That was how they did things. Today, It breaks your heart to look at it. But even that didn't work. The boy had vanished from someone's life, but no one was looking for him. This is the part that haunts detectives for 65 years. A 4-year-old boy disappears. No one reports him missing. No one calls the police. No one says my son is gone. That doesn't happen by accident. Someone, the person who killed him, had made sure that no one would ask questions. The question is, how did they get away with it for so long? Remington Bristow worked in the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's office. He saw the boy's body the day it came in. And he never let go. For 36 years, until his death in 1993, Bristow worked the case on his own time. He drove around Fox Chase, knocking on doors. He followed every lead. He attended every estate sale. Within 5 miles of the crime scene. In 1960, Bristow visited a psychic in New Jersey. The psychic told him to look for a foster home, a specific house about 1.5 miles from the discovery site. When the psychic was brought to Philadelphia, she led Bristow directly to the address. Bristow attended an estate sale at that home years later. And there it was, a bassinet box, identical to the one used to dispose of the boy's body. Blankets on the clothesline that matched the blanket at the crime scene. The foster home belonged to a man who ran a private care operation. Bristow believed the boy was the illegitimate son of the man's stepdaughter, and that they had killed him and dumped his body to hide the shame. Police investigated. They interviewed the family. They checked the records of every child who had been in that home. All the children were accounted for. No one was missing. The lead went nowhere. In 2002, a woman came forward. She identified herself only as Martha, or She told police that her parents had purchased a boy named Jonathan from his birth parents in the summer of 1954. That the boy had been severely abused. That he had been beaten to death. That his body had been placed in a box and left in the woods. Martha claimed she had been a child when it happened. She had seen things. She remembered a small boy living in the house. She remembered the beating. She remembered the box. But Martha had a history of mental illness. When police investigated her story, neighbors said there had never been a young boy in that house. They called her claims ridiculous. The lead was dismissed. In 1990, the boy in the box case was taken up by the Vidic Society, an exclusive group of the world's best forensic detectives, profilers, and investigators. They met monthly in Philadelphia to solve cold cases over lunch. The boy became one of their most famous cases. Frank Bender, the famous forensic artist, studied the body and developed a disturbing theory. The boy's hair had been cut poorly, as if someone had done it in haste. His eyebrows appeared to have been styled. Bender believed the boy had been raised as a girl. It was only a theory. But it suggested something darker, that the boy's identity had been hidden not just after death, but during his entire short life. In 1998, the boy's body was exhumed for DNA testing. A tooth was extracted for genetic analysis. He was reburied in a proper grave at Ivy Hill Cemetery, with a headstone donated by a stranger engraved with the words, "America's Unknown Child." For the first time in 41 years, the boy had a proper grave. But he still had no name. 65 years. That's how long this boy waited for his name. In 2022, DNA technology finally gave him back his identity. But the answer only led to more questions. Because once you know whose child he was, you start to wonder how anyone could let this happen. In 2019, the boy's body was exhumed for a second time. The investigation had reached a dead end. Conventional methods had failed for 62 years. But a new tool had emerged: investigative genetic genealogy. The technique that caught the Golden State Killer. The technique that was solving cold cases across America. In October 2021, more than a year before the public announcement, genealogists working with the Philadelphia Police Department found a match. A cousin had uploaded DNA to a public database. That cousin's mother, a first cousin of the boy, was contacted and agreed to provide a sample. The chain was complete. On December 8, 2022, Philadelphia Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw stood before the cameras and announced, "The boy in the box has been identified. His name is Joseph Augustus Sorelli. He was 4 years old. He was born on January 13, 1953. After 65 years, 9 months, and 13 days, America's unknown child finally had a name. Joseph Augustus Sorelli was born on January 13, 1953. His father was Augustus John Sorelli, a man from a prominent Delaware County family. His mother was Mary Elizabeth Plunkett, née Abel, a woman who had already put another child up for adoption. The two were never married. They were never known to be in a relationship. Investigators believe Joseph was born in West Philadelphia, and that at some point, he was given away or taken. His mother's cousin later speculated that Mary might not have raised him at all. By the time Joseph was 4 years old, he had vanished from every official record. No school enrollment. No doctor visits. No birth certificate pulled from the files. He had been erased before he was even dead. His parents both married other people. They had other children, Joseph's half-siblings. Those half-siblings are still alive today. And none of them knew Joseph existed. The investigation is still open. The Philadelphia Police Department has not closed it. They have not named a suspect. They have not made an arrest. But they know more than they're saying. Detectives have confirmed that Joseph lived at some point near 61st and Market Streets in West Philadelphia. They believe someone must have seen him. Someone must have known. The question that haunts every detective who has worked this case is simple. How does a 4-year-old boy vanish without anyone noticing? He wasn't a newborn. He wasn't hidden in a basement. He lived in a neighborhood in a major American city. People must have seen him. Must have wondered who he was. "I don't know what the neighbors knew or didn't know," said Captain Jason Smith of the Philadelphia Police Homicide Unit. The child did live past the age of 4 years old. There would have been somebody out there that would have seen this child. The neighborhood near 61st and Market Streets in the 1950s was working class, tightly packed. Row houses. Front stoops. Children played on the sidewalks. Someone had to have seen a small, malnourished boy with surgical scars. Someone had to have noticed that he never went to school. That he never played with the other children. That he looked like he hadn't been fed in weeks. And yet, no one ever came forward. Not in 1957. Not in 1967. Not in 2022. That silence is its own kind of evidence. Both of Joseph's biological parents are deceased. But his half-siblings, people who share his blood, are alive. They have been contacted. Whether they have provided any information has not been disclosed. The case remains unsolved. The killer, whoever placed that small body in a cardboard box on a cold February day in 1957, has never faced justice. But maybe, just maybe, they are still out there. And maybe after 69 years, their time is running out. On January 13, 2023, what would have been Joseph's 70th birthday, a new headstone was unveiled at Ivy Hill Cemetery. This one bore his name, Joseph Augustus Sorelli. His image was engraved in the stone. And beneath it, a plaque that still read, "America's Unknown Child." For 65 years, this boy was a symbol. He was the face of every forgotten child, the one no one was looking for, the one who slipped through every crack. His case inspired changes in how missing children are reported. It led to national databases. It taught law enforcement that every child matters, even the ones no one claims. He became a cause, a mystery, a legend. But he was also just a little boy. Joseph Augustus Sorelli was beaten to death. He was malnourished. He was scarred from surgeries that no one ever explained. He had been cleaned and groomed before being placed in a box, as if someone wanted him to look peaceful. He was 4 years old. The box was a bassinet box, a container meant for a baby. The blanket was plaid, the kind a family might own. The clothing that was supposed to cover him was gone. In 69 years, The Philadelphia Police Department has investigated hundreds of suspects. They have exhumed Joseph's body twice. They have used DNA databases. They have knocked on doors. They have followed every lead. And still, no one has been charged. The case is still open. The killer is still free. Somewhere, someone knows what happened to Joseph Augustus Sorelli. And a small boy, whose tombstone still reads, "America's unknown child," waits for the truth to catch up. Joseph Augustus Sorelli was given a name in 2022, after 65 years. But that name came with more questions than answers. Who beat him? Who starved him? Who put him in that box? Who cut his hair and trimmed his nails, as if preparing him for a funeral no one else would attend? And most importantly, who was supposed to be protecting him?